Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Builder Show, the show where we build builders. My name is Cameron Vogelsang, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Wilson Betances. Will, how you doing on this Monday morning?
Monday morning, we are off to a great start. This week, we're headed out to Houston. We have some exciting things that we're going to be doing down in H Town. So I can't wait. We're going to actually start flying out tonight.
Awesome, and that is for what?
That's for RE plus. So in the renewable space. So if you're thinking about going into solar, renewables, EV charging stations, the whole shebang, especially with everything going from data centers, that's the big push. And we have a contract with them. We do a lot of our courses in person with them. We're actually going to be teaching our foreman course actually this week,
Okay.
so that's going to be pretty exciting. So we're excited to get to meet some of these installers, these contractors, these electricians down in H Town.
Awesome. Yeah, I used to live just south of Houston, a few hours, so I'm
Oh,
familiar
nice.
with that area. But let's get straight into our talking points today. As in previous episodes, the past couple weeks, we've been talking about apprentices leaving the trade. We've talked about how to separate yourself from other electricians. We've talked about how to better your skill sets as an electrician. We've talked all things apprenticeships, contractors, all sorts of things on how to be a better electrician. But I want to introduce a more direct or specific question in relation to all that. So, talk about how to get in the trades, right? And how to get it better. Will, what separates an average electrician from a great electrician?
Ooh, I think that's going to be a good one today. And what I'm excited about is when we started reviewing what actually makes a great electrician, we can break that down into three areas. And I want you guys, if you guys are following along, and if you guys are in your apprenticeship, if you guys are apprentices, or let's say it's your first day on the job site, we want you to save this video because we want you to understand that there are things that you can do now, even as an apprentice, that can separate you from everybody else. There's things that you can do now as an apprentice, even your first day on the job, that's going to set you up to be a leader. We understand that leadership or a foreman is just a title. When you display these qualities, you're actually taking initiative, you're actually taking responsibility for your work and who you are as a person, that no title, no job position can either be put on you or take that away from you. This is a tangible skill. So that's what I'm super excited about today's 3 points on what actually makes a great electrician. And I think the first one, and we're going to get some slack for this one, but it's pretty fun. It's actually understanding the NEC, not just being and memorizing every code section there is, but understand why there is an NEC. And I think I that's what we wanted to start with the first point. Cameron, you want to give a little insight on what you think about the NEC, and especially when it comes to us just going to work, and especially new ones coming into the trade. What are some things that we typically see versus what we should actually see?
Yeah, so first of all, the NEC is important. I'm going to go ahead and read out of Article 90, the introduction of the NEC. In Article 90, I'm going to read you just one sentence here. It says, the purpose of this code, the NEC, is the practical safeguarding of persons and property from hazardous or hazards arising from the use of electricity. So, boom. That is the purpose of this entire book. This is a 2017. This is let's get this in the camera here. So, this is my book from years ago, and Tennessee's still on the 2017 as a state. This is tab. This is highlight. This is what I took my test like 8 times in. That's why it's all tore up because I kept failing. Um, but the NEC is important. Now, we can all have different opinions under that umbrella on how there are nuances, There's even amendments all over the country in different jurisdictions. Some have added things, some have taken away, some don't enforce certain things. And we don't really want to get into the weeds of that, right? That's not the purpose of this episode. But I think getting back to your question, Will, on what's my opinion on the NEC, I agree with that statement and the introduction. Um, is, eh, do I need to agree with everything in there? I don't have to agree with everything, but it's important to number one, follow the NEC for liability reasons. And number two, to follow what your jurisdiction requires. Okay. And that's sometimes where electricians talk past each other, especially when we engage with those online from different parts of the country. It's like we're all speaking different languages and we're all telling the truth, but we just like can't seem to figure it out and understand each other. Because there are a lot of nuances and amendments and different code cycles. And like I said, jurisdictions will take away certain things, and you may have someone out somewhere else that's like, "What the heck are you doing?" Code violation, red flags. So that's my personal take on the NEC. I could say more, but I'm not going to because that's not the purpose of this episode.
What I appreciate what you said is when you mentioned the jurisdiction. And remember, this episode, we're speaking to the ones who are coming in. Let's say you're an apprentice, it's day one, or you've been in the trade for a while, but you want to make yourself stand out. The reason why we're saying you have to understand the NEC, I'm not talking about memorizing everything from day one. If you're an electrician, if you're an apprentice, if you already been in the trade and you want to stand out compared to other electricians out there, it's understanding why the NSC is important. Because the first step is understanding and appreciating why the set of codes exist. And like what you just read in Article 90, it's to protect property, it's to protect people from performing electrical work. So if you, at the end of the day, understand that, hey, this book is made so we can follow certain rules so we can protect people and property, you're going to have a deeper appreciation for the electrical work that you do. And you're going to make sure everything you do aligns with protecting people and property. You understand? That all automatically eliminates these fly by night electricians, these handymen, guys who are looking for a quick buck, guys who don't care if it's going to cause a fire. How many times have you and I showed up to a job site and we're like, who the heck did this? Clearly, somebody who doesn't care about people or property. Their main focus is just a quick buck. So if you're an apprentice and you recognize the value of why there's an NEC, you're going to already have a deeper appreciation. Now, let's apply that same concept to what do we actually see out there. True or not, you and I are both electricians. True or not, me and you both learned in the field. What do we typically see? We're seeing our journeymen, our foremen, our bosses telling us, hey, do this. And we ask, why? Or he says, do this, it's code. And then later on down the road, true or not, we see this on Instagram all the time. Someone goes, dude, that's a code violation. Well, I was taught that way. True or not? So you see, now if we're coming in and we don't have our own appreciation for the code, we're eventually just going to fall into what we were told. And what we were told may not be exactly what is written. Or our boss, for example, like the code that we went over, 12 inches. What if it says 8 inches? Well, our boss said just to do 12. He may gone above and beyond of what the code's actually requiring because he wants to be safe. And then they're going to say the code's minimum. So everyone's giving you these exceptions, higher or lower. And then they're telling you, well, the code's minimum, but you still yourself don't know what the code is. You're not going to have that appreciation when it comes to your work. Does that make sense to you, Cameron?
No, that makes perfect sense. Real quick. I don't know if this is a mute point or not, but does the code book say anywhere that it's a minimum code requirement?
No, usually people tell others it's a minimum.
Okay, that's yeah. So that is a presupposition that you're bringing into the code book because correct me if I'm wrong. I just asked you, Will. You said no, but I don't believe anywhere in the code book it says this is a minimum standard requirement. People just say it is Because my argument would be is that you have jurisdictions across the country who are on 2017, 2020, 2023, and there are some, they're not many, but there are some that don't require arc fault breakers. Well, that just violates the rule of minimum standard of the code book, right? So I was just going to say that as an
Mm,
example is that doesn't we I think we need to be more specific and intentional with how we say things, because saying that the code book is minimum, well, you have jurisdictions that are, I guess, violating that because they don't enforce arc fault breakers, for example. All right, and so nowhere in the code book does it say, to my knowledge, that this is the minimum standard that you have to follow, no matter
yeah.
what. Nothing like that.
And that's
So
what you just mentioned also when it comes to these jurisdictions, these different states. That's why it's so crazy when you go state to state because everyone's on a different code book, everyone's on a different cycle, everyone has different amendments. Even within states, you have different counties, cities that vary. That's why, if you understand the principle, if you understand the reason behind why the code book was written, that's going to stay transparent whatever year you go to. So let's say you go to another state at another code cycle, at least you know it was still made to protect people and property, right? You go to Tennessee, hey, even if they're at 2017, people and property. New York, 2008, people and property. You go to Connecticut, people and property. California, people and property. As long as you understand the why of why the NEC code book was written, at least that fundamental truth is going to stay the same. And that will in turn allow you to become one step better than any other electrician in the field because they're just doing what they were told. They don't have an appreciation for what the NEC actually is, which leads us to point number 2 now, which I want to ask you, Cameron. What is your experience or what's your understanding when it comes to understanding blueprints and electrical symbols? How can that help you starting off in the trade? Or let's say you're an electrician and you want to become better. Why should you study blueprints? Why should you understand thoroughly what electrical symbols are?
I think the electrical symbols aren't that hard to figure out. I mean, you can look at the what's it called, the legend, and receptacles are basically the same. The circle with the two lines. Maybe the lights are different depending on what kind of lights you're putting in a room. So you have symbols for fans, you have symbols for 6-inch lights, 4-inch lights, wall sconces, so forth. And so that's just something that I guess I just looked at prints at some point and kind of figured that out, but also um, how to just use a tape measure or a ruler on how to measure according to the scale on the plans. But deeper than that, 'cause I think that's the superficial stuff. I think the more deeper reason why it's important to understand blueprints, especially when you're coming into the trades as an electrician, is again liability. If you do what the plans say to do, it will not come back on you. It, at least legitimately, it won't legitimately come back on you because if there's any issues. All you have to do is just go to the plans and say, "This is what I did." Well, that's not the same thing we have, or you know, well, it should have been this. Well, they didn't want to communicate that with me. Well, how can I just start assuming things? I'm just doing what the plans say. Now, if something looks weird, this is what separates a good electrician or an average electrician from a great electrician. Something you can do as a great electrician is take that initiative. If you see something that doesn't look right on the plans, if you want to double check, we do that all the time. If I see something that doesn't look right, I double check with the homeowner or the GC, and sometimes the plans are wrong because an interior designer or an architect drew it up and those people don't know codes with electrical, right? Respectfully, that's not a diss. They just don't know the codes that well. And so they'll have some like shoddy stuff drawn up, just janky stuff, and have like one receptacle like on an 8-foot counter. It's like you got to have another one. Well, that doesn't fit our design plan. Well, doesn't matter if it fits your design plan or not. I'm just telling you, because the last thing you want to do is have to rip off backsplash and cut sheetrock and add a receptacle when you were told the first time.
I like how you said that, how it's also tied like with the NEC, it helps you and protects you from liability. And the reason why I think understanding blueprints and understanding electrical symbols, why blueprints and electrical symbols are so important if you're coming into electrical, it's because that's the way you're communicating with the job site. Just like what we talked about the NEC, that's basically the framework of the type of installation, the quality. Remember, you want to protect people and property. Now, when you follow the blueprint, that's you executing on that job to these safety standards. So if you're an electrician, if you're coming into the trade, let's say it's day one, and if you want to get a leg up, and if you start understanding these drawings, you're going to start understanding the scope of work. You're going to start understanding what the big picture is, because we get so involved in one of our tasks, in one thing at a time. But then when we get to see how everything works together, and this goes beyond just electrical, because then you're going to learn your architectural drawings. You're going to find out your engineered plans. You're going to start seeing HVAC, plumbing, how everything collaborates with each other. Not only that, then you're going to start seeing red lines. You're going to start seeing change orders. You're going to start seeing everything in real time. But that blueprint, those electrical symbols, is a way for you and I to communicate not only with our teams, but with the engineers, like you mentioned, but with other trades specifically. So if you start learning these symbols, you're going to start learning how to communicate, and not only communicate, but bring it to life on the actual job site. What I love the most about understanding how to read a blueprint or blueprint reading is there was a scene from a movie, and I forgot what the name was. Oh, Oppenheimer. Have you ever seen the scene in Oppenheimer when he wrote the chemical equation for the atomic bomb? He just read the formula and he can already visualize what the reaction was going to be. And he's like, oh my God, this can destroy the world just by reading a mathematical equation. That's how proficient he was at his craft. If you and I are an electrician, and if you open up a set of plans and you see the design, you can already see how the house is going to look like, true or not, even before it's even done. You're going to be like, oh, wow, this is a big house. This is a beautiful house. Oh, man, that's cool. What's that? Oh, that switch is going to control all these lights. Ooh, that's going to be nice. Oh, wow, they have surround. Oh, no, they have this. Oh, they have walkway lights. Oh, they have this scenic. Wow. You can already visualize what the end product's going to look like just by looking at the blueprints. So if you are an electrician, if you're coming into the trade and you want to separate yourself from other electricians, understand the blueprints. Another story that I have is blueprint reading is so valuable. If you're an electrician, understanding how to read a blueprint is so valuable. And the reason why is I remember when I was in the union, I would have our lead foreman take the electrical drawings home. Do you know why, Cameron?
Why?
He would take it home so that nobody else can do the work or plan the work besides him. He didn't want anybody to do better than him. So he would take the plans so he can actually hoard all that information, gatekeep, the things that we talked about. So if you are able to understand plans, you are directly a threat to other foremen and journeymen. Because if you understand what has to get done, you don't need to wait for this dude to tell you what to freaking do. You understand? He's going to walk around with the rolls of the plans and go like, oh, you got to do this. And the old scene where he opens it up and it's like, you're not doing it to the scope, guys, and just want to bark orders. If you learn how to read a blueprint, and those are accessible to everyone on the job site, they leave it on the print table, or now everyone brings it on their iPad. If you can have it on your iPad, and this guy doesn't need to bark orders at you, holding all that information, if you can read the blueprint yourself and you take initiative and you can start getting ahead and you can start doing and prepping work, getting the material, the plan's going to tell you, hey, get, a bundle of 3/4 inch, some compression connectors. It's going to tell you what size wire you have to get. You can load up the cart. As an apprentice, you can get all that ready. But guess what? The journeyman don't like that because he didn't tell you to go get that material, right? If you learn how to read a blueprint, you can be proactive and you can look like a leader versus the guy who has the drawings who's going to basically tell you what to do and then you just look like a good boy taking orders. That's the difference. That's how valuable understanding blueprints are. And that's why if anybody's going to come into the trade or anyone who's already an electrician, to separate yourself from everybody else, start learning how to read a blueprint.
Yep. And the third point we have that separates or makes a great electrician versus an average electrician is project management skills. That's we put the cherry on top. Save the best for last, right? Project management skills. So as electricians grow, right? So as we grow in our careers, as we uh, mature, as we develop our personal skill set, responsibilities expand beyond just the field skills or the installation. Right now, we do encounter some people who just seem to be okay with that. They seem to be okay with being an installer their entire career, and a lot of those people don't even last in the trades. Right, we see that as we speak. But getting into that role of project management, if you are doing well at your job and you care about self development, if you care about bettering yourself, how you can separate yourself from everyone else, you're eventually going to be in this project management role. I don't know how long it's going to take, but you're eventually going to be in this role, and you are going to have more responsibilities. If you want more an hour, right? Everybody wants more pay, right? Everybody wants more of this and that, and that's understandable. We all want more, but with that is going to come more responsibilities, right? So planning and organizational skills become more critical than they used to, because think about it, when you're an installer, you just take orders. You just take orders from your journeyman, your foreman. Hey, go get that. Or hey, bend this pipe. Hey, we need wire ran from here and there. You hardly have to use your brain after a while, because you're going to master those field skills, right? And then it just becomes second nature to bend pipe or to wire this or wire that. And you really don't have to think that much about anything anymore. And that is nice. I'm not going to lie, in some ways. But you're always going to be just at the bottom. You're always going to be just an installer, right? Like we said before. So I imagine that many of you listening don't want to do that, right? And that's why developing your project management skills become so important to take that next step in your electrical career. What do you think, Will?
You hit on the head, bro. And that's so tied with everything else that we said because learning project management skills, in other words, soft skills, in other words, organization and communication, right? If you do, those are things that you can work on that nobody else can take away from you. That's only going to benefit you in life. True or not? True or not? Communicating and organization helps you with keeping your house tidy. True or not? Keeps you financially responsible. True or not? Helps you with their spouse. True or not? All of these skills that you're going to actually apply at work and that will make you better, it's to help you in life. None of these things are we saying it's actually a secret. Do you understand? It's not like, oh man, here's the biggest hack of 2026. Learn how to communicate. Like, no, dude, you and I have been talking for years. If you refine that, you are actually going to be a better electrician. You and I pay bills all the time. Guess what? If you do that and refine that, you can actually be a good estimator. Hey, if you and I are good at scheduling, organization, keeping our word, communicating with other crews, guess what? If you refine that a little more, you're going to be an awesome project lead. All of these skills that you just mentioned, Cameron, is going to help you in life. It doesn't only have to apply to a job site.
Sure. And I know and have met electricians that are really good installers. They know the code well. They do great work, but their people skills are horrible. And they think that because they're good electricians, that that's really all that matters in this life, in their career, is that they know theory very well and code very well. And they've been doing this for 10 or 15 years. But they can't have a conversation with anyone without losing their mind. They can't talk to their apprentice and correct him without cussing them or being a jerk, and have a really hard time managing people. And we see that those types of people either A, get out of the trades completely, B, if they're contractors, they just shut down shop and go back to their job that they came from, and C, they have a revolving door at their company, just people quitting all the time, and new guy comes in and he quits. It's just a revolving door. And so that's what I want us to understand, is while the technical field skills are important, and they're always important, um, as an electrician, as a contractor, you are going to have to develop these skills that we've mentioned, focus on these things, because one day the electrician stuff, the installer stuff, all the stuff you see on Instagram about tools and this and that and the other, right? That's all not going to be as relevant anymore. And that's okay. It's okay to move up and do better and greater things. There's a time for that, right? But um if you're gonna do the things that we're talking about, you're gonna have to get past that stuff. What at the Leviton event, I think we said that when you become a contractor, you are leaving an electrician and owning the title of contractor. That's business. That's leadership. That's soft skills, right? That is um, people skills. So those are my thoughts on everything we've talked about. What do you think about that, Will?
You hit it on the head, especially with all those organizational skills. That's exactly what we need to focus on. And what's so amazing is you don't have to wait till you're a contractor to start applying this. Remember, if you're an apprentice, if today's day one, if you're an electrician, these are things that you can do now and apply in your life now that are going to separate you from everybody else. And I know we're wrapping up on time, but Cameron, do you want to go over the three qualities, the three pillars of what you can do now to separate yourself as a good electrician from a great electrician, or a great electrician from good electricians? You know what I mean? Do it all and wrap it up.
Oh, your mic's kind of booming. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So the three pillars in separating yourself into a great electrician, not an average electrician, is number one, your NEC knowledge, understanding the very first principle of the NEC, which is protecting people and property. Number two, blueprint understanding. As we mentioned earlier, that if you can read a blueprint, that's dangerous. That's dangerous stuff right there. If you can read a blueprint, you don't need any guidance. All right. So, NEC knowledge, blueprint understanding, and then lastly, project management. Project management. How do you manage people? How do you communicate? How do you handle pressure? Those three things are the pillars. Those three things are the pillars of what is going to separate you as an average electrician into a great electrician.
So, everybody, happy Monday. If you're heading into work, remember, apply these three things, these three segments. If you're an apprentice, if it's today's day one on the job site, save this, refer back to it. And I'm just excited because now, once again, Cameron, like you mentioned, we're trying to provide more value. We're giving you guys the more information on what you need to actually apply in your job today. So make sure you apply these three things. And then we'll touch base on you guys on Wednesday once we start getting some of the feedback. So appreciate each and every one of you guys. Have a happy Monday.